Hey, I'm Michael Dorinda,
And I'm Jake Bennett.
and welcome to episode 174 of the North Meet South web podcast.
Got it. Nailed it. Hey,
I
Michael.
remembered it. Hello.
Laracon Australia shirts, they're looking good. Looking good, buddy.
Yeah, this is a company uniform. I got some
I
just
like
two
it.
t-shirts made up, but I'm thinking ideas like people have said to me in the past that they'd be interested in buying like bespoke swag for
Oh, for sure.
Laracon. So
Yeah,
I
absolutely.
like these are just like pre-branding logos that we've done that we're trying to work with Laravel actually to come up with an identity to use for like the Laracon aspect of the conference that would be separate
hmm
from like all of the stuff we do with our own event specific branding. So we're just working through some ideas there. And getting pretty close to that at the moment. But yeah,
Nice.
I think it'd be cool
That
to
seems like
kind
it'd
of
be a
set
good
up a
idea.
swag
Yeah,
store. Yeah. I don't
well,
know
I'm
about
just
doing
saying,
it at the event, but like to be able to sell for like a month or 2 months, or maybe even 3 months before the conference, just some like event specific t-shirts, beanies, whatever that we can just drop ship to people rather than trying to deal with logistics and stock and things like that at the conference. So everyone will
yeah,
still get
oh,
their
yeah, that's
conference
that's the way to
t-shirt.
do it for sure.
But like if people want to buy like a jacket or I don't know, a mug or something, just that kind of stuff. But we're trying to think, what is actually worthwhile. Are people going to buy it? We don't want to buy up a whole bunch of stock of things that people aren't going to buy. So
The
yeah,
company I've
just
had
like
best
throwing
luck
some ideas
with
around.
is Printful.
Yeah,
Printful is
printful.
really, really good. And also, they have got insanely good pricing on 100% custom printed polos, like full
Mhm.
color, like you get to print the entire polo, which is
Yeah,
super cool.
nice.
It's like $30 and
Like a
we've
digital
got some
screen print kind of thing,
is
right?
yeah, it's not even a
Yeah.
screen print. It's actually what's it called? I can't remember the name of it, but it's basically like the fabric is dyed.
Oh,
You know what I
right, right, right.
mean?
Yep, yep.
It's
Yeah,
it's
we did that. Our first 2 years of Laracon, we did like the dyed shirts through Clockwise Tees because that was who Taylor was using for Laracon US at the time. So we ended up using them as well, and
That's
that
my daughter.
stuff.
She's getting ice out of the ice machine. That's Lyndon.
Ice
Say
machine at
hi.
10 o'clock.
Oh my word, child. She was supposed to be in bed a while ago, but
Yeah,
there you
these
have it.
kids, man. Yeah,
hmm
so yeah, I like that, but I think you kind of have a bit of a limit in terms of how many colors you can print that way because they layer them when they dye the shirt. So,
So with
but
this one, it's not. There is
huh,
no limit. It's incredible. If you want if you want this, I should show you the ones that we
yeah,
got. They're just really
send some
incredible. I'll
photos.
send you a
Send some
picture.
photos
I'll send you
after.
a
Yeah,
picture.
that'd be cool.
Yeah, they're really
Because
really good.
we
So
there's a company that does like this drop shipping kind of stuff here where they'll hold all the stock and whatnot. And we just like sell the stuff and they'll ship it out, which would be good because I don't want to fill my space here with merchandise to then have to go and lug to the post office and
also it's
send
so
out.
hard
So
to tell like sizing in advance. If
yeah,
you open the store within 2 months of the actual event, then you could have people who would have it there at the event.
yeah, and that's the idea. Like people could bring wear their own stuff that they've bought pre the conference, and then we do the t-shirt as well for the event
Yeah.
as standard. So yeah,
Yeah.
but we'll see.
Yeah,
We'll see where we
because
land on that.
that's the trick is like a lot of these like on demand ones, the printing is just terrible. Like
Yeah,
it's not
yeah, because
great.
they
And
just churn them
so
out.
right, Printful I've found to be pretty darn good. So
Hmm.
just check that one out. Yeah.
Nice.
Hats, you should do hats, you should do mugs, you should do crew neck hoodies, although I don't know how hot it's going to be at Laracon AU. Pretty hot.
Mm. Yeah, I think hoodies. I mean, people might buy them for winter, but that's always an interesting one. Whether you do it, do you do it because it's cool swag to have, or do you do it
Yeah.
based on the time of year that you're hosting it, so that
Totally. Yeah.
people can wear it straight away? So yeah, hats. We had like the beach hats last year,
Oh yeah,
the
like
AS
bucket
color
hats?
ones, which were cool. Not bucket hats. They were. I don't think I've got one in here. It's just like a baseball
Like a
cap, but it was
straw? Oh, okay.
like a surf kind of material. So
Sure, sure.
they were kind of cool. We had like the pink ones. I think I've shown pictures of it. People we gave those out to the speakers last year. and I'll bring a handful of them that were left over to Laracon US with me this year to give out to a few people, yourself and the cash money included, and
Sick.
then whatever's left will just launch into the crowd and see who wants them. So
Nice. There you go, man. No, people will definitely want them. Absolutely, they will.
yeah.
Well, my friend, I'm
How did
interested if you
you?
have it. Go
Yeah,
ahead.
how did you go with your Horizon woes that we talked about last time? I know that someone, I think Sid, reached out and
Yeah.
talked about configuring Horizon differently to make sure that those things
Well,
are tackled. Did you look at it?
basically they said there was no way to configure Horizon to solve this problem. This is something
Mm-hmm.
that you have to handle with your own queue runners. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so
doing your own
you can
co-workers.
set
Yeah.
up your queue runners to do it yourself. So instead of
Mm-hmm.
going to scheduler and setting Horizon run or whatever it is, you know what I mean,
Yeah.
making sure that there's a supervisor running that, which is managing your, your workers, you have to actually go to set up your own queue workers, right? So PHP artisan queue run or queue watch, and then
Yeah.
dash dash queue equals. Now the problem though is
You
it's a
don't
bit of a
get the
weird
UI for it.
situation. You don't get the UI for it. You don't get the
Mm.
ability to see the failed jobs. You don't get the ability to retry jobs. Um, you can't see how many there are for each queue sitting out there. It's a pretty big hit, honestly.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm sort of a little bit on the fence as to whether I want to do that or not. It's I'm not sure. I'm not sure what to do.
Did you
So
did you entertain the idea of having multiple supervisors in production so that like you have one supervisor that does your high priority jobs and then a second supervisor that does, the medium low, and then you've got like your default one for the fallback? Was that an option? Like I know you didn't want to have queue workers running if they weren't doing anything, but it may be really the only way to do it if you want to keep using Horizon.
sure. I don't. I'll explain my situation here. So while most people are used to thinking about supervisors as a priority, so we have high priority, we have default priority, we have background priority, and that's fine.
Mhm.
Mine are not necessarily that way. If they were
Right.
that way, I would not be having this problem. And let me be specific as to why. If the
Mhm.
only thing I cared about was like how quickly they got done, I would not have the problem that I have right now.
Mhm.
Because if I was simply able to delegate, this goes to high priority queue, this goes to default queue, this goes to whatever queue, then I would only have one queue that supervisor was responsible for watching. And it would, if you have a maximum of 10 jobs that's available for the high priority queue, it would just push 10 to the high priority queue, and no problems,
Yeah.
and you're all good to go. Now the twist in this for me is that I have to know when I have to name a specific queue for a specific type of job. So let me just walk through the scenario. Let's say I have a job that needs to download documents for a client called Connect. And then I have another one called Rainbow. And I have another one called Jacket or something. I don't know. Just
Mhm.
throwing stuff out there, right?
Sure. Yeah.
I have to be able to monitor all those jobs separately because I need to know when that queue is empty. Because of the way that the process works from step 1 all the way through step 5, I can't move from step 1 to step 2 until all of the documents have been downloaded. So if I queue up 800 documents to be downloaded, and in 10 minutes I say run step 2, the first thing step 2 does is say, is the connect documents queue empty?
Mhm.
If it is, continue. If it's not, return. So I have to be able to name that queue and specifically watch that queue of documents before I can move forward. So what that means is that my supervisor is not watching a high priority queue. It's watching
Yeah.
Connect docs and Rainbow docs and Jacket docs and Haircut docs and AirPod docs and Mouse
Yeah.
docs and
Yeah.
Keys
Yeah.
docs and whatever. So there's 10 of them. There's 10 different
Yeah.
queues that are in that supervisor. Well, the problem with Horizon, it's not a problem, it's just a weird use case, is that each one of those queues that it's monitoring, since you can't set the min processes to 0, there has to be at least one worker sitting there available for any of those that aren't doing anything. which
Yeah.
is fine normally, except for I have 10 queues
Yeah.
that 99.9% of their life have nothing in them. So if I set 10 workers up for supervisor number 2, right?
Hmm.
And I have
Hmm.
10 queues that it's watching, the queues all only get one worker, even if there's nothing in them. It doesn't roll. So I actually have to have like 20 workers in order to be able to get any sort of overlap, which is annoying. And so that's the problem that I'm facing. So
Mm.
maybe there's a better way for me to check that. Maybe there's a way for me to tag it rather than name the queue.
Yeah, rather than
Maybe I
having a
can.
queue per
I
client, I
suppose you
guess
know
we
what I
can
could
call
do.
them.
I suppose I could probably batch it.
Yeah, that was my thought. And this
I
is
could
what
probably
we have just started
batch those
doing,
documents and
yeah,
name the
in the last
batch.
week. Yeah, because we're doing document download as well for a integration that we're building at the moment, where we get sent like a payload that will have, say, a link to a driver's license and, bank statements, um, you know, utility bills, things like that. We won't dispatch them as discrete jobs. We dispatch them as a batch. So we can say, like, for this application, we've got these 20 documents that need to be downloaded, or 10 documents or whatever. And then you can track the process of the batch. And I'm pretty sure when you create the batch, because it's all going into the batch job batches or batch jobs table or whatever it is, you get the UUID. So you can track the progress of the individual um, batch.
Hmm.
So
Hmm.
maybe that's a consideration that you kind of
I think
got
I
there
could
on
do
your
that
own.
actually.
That you could say, you could you could link the job batches to the client, or whoever, to say, okay,
Yeah.
well, this is the last batch ID, or here are all of the batch IDs, and then you can go and sort of track them through a pivot table, that they're running, and then when this one is finished, then all of that stuff is finished, and you can kick off. You could even put at the end of the batch, like, when this is done. I think you could do like bus : batch, and then you can chain then to the end of it. So you could just get the batch to
I could
run
almost put like a
and then kick
mutex in
off.
there or something.
Yeah, well, you could do that, but where I was going with it is you could say, like, do the bus batch, and then get it to dispatch the step 2 job. So rather than you tracking that the batch has been completed, or that it's that queue has finished processing, you can say, once this batch is done, get
Then
Laravel to
kick
then
off part
handle
step 2. Yeah.
doing step 2. So that may be something that you can explore. And that way you don't have to worry about having all of these different queues that are sitting there doing nothing. But I think you also then get more control over, you know, throwing 800 documents into this batch. I don't know if there's a limitation on how much you can put into a batch, but, that could be something to explore. And it gives you the benefit of still using Horizon to do all this stuff for you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, that's kind of the way around it, because I really do want to know. I wonder if it monitors batches. Like if Horizon knows if there's a batch. I mean, you could also just go look in the batches table. I mean, it's like you could go look at the batch and decide from
Yeah.
there too, I suppose.
Yeah. And it depends on
You would
if you need to know that the batch is running. Do you care
right,
specifically that the batch is running, or do you
not
just care that the
necessarily,
batch
right?
was
Yeah,
finished, right? So,
right, pretty much. I mean, it's more of a convenience thing. It's like, oh, how many are out there for that specific job? It's like I don't
mm,
necessarily need to know for sure. I could probably just query the jobs table at that point and decide, how many jobs are there that are matching this type of job or something like that. Yeah, I bet you there's some interesting ways around that. Hmm.
I would assume that it does have a notion of batches, that you could kind of just rely on it working without too much issue. But yeah, as I said, when you dispatch that job, store the UID somewhere in relation to the specific client or context or whatever that you need to, so that if you want to display some progress indicator,
Yep.
in your web app, you could say, okay, there is a batch running right now. There are this many jobs completed. Like, you've got all that functionality on the batch. So that may be a consideration as well. And as I said,
And then
we've
you can
only
push things
just
onto
started using
batches
it.
too. I think
Yeah,
you can
you can
push
push
things
more
onto
jobs
batches
onto
as well.
batches. Yeah. So, um, yeah, well, like I said, we've only just started. This is the first time I've ever used batches. I've never seen a reason for it in any of my stuff. But with this document stuff, I thought, oh, we want to know not the individual ones were done. We want to see, what did we actually send to be downloaded, and you know, did any of those fail in the context of this application, not individual jobs that were failing. So yeah, I think similar kind of thing. When you said documents, I thought, well, this is what we're doing. So we'll see how it plays out once we get into the actual production use case of it in the next couple of weeks.
Interesting. Okay. Well, I may have to explore that a bit. Using batches instead of using named queues. Okay. See how that works. It's a bit of a paradigm change. I'm sure there are a couple different ways I could do it, but that's one way. So,
I
okay,
mean,
interesting.
sometimes it's a matter of, having the right jigsaw puzzle piece and figuring out which way you need to spin it to put it into the puzzle.
Yeah, exactly right. Yeah, thankfully, like we have 10 different ways to solve these problems with Laravel,
Mm-hmm.
and thankfully it's like, I mean, I say Horizon's broken. Horizon's not broken. I'm just operating with some odd use case that it's not built for. So that's fine. That's fine.
Yeah.
Yeah, the other thing I was going to say that is interesting that we're doing is we are working on grabbing emails out of inboxes and automating the process of sort of like categorizing them or grabbing pieces off of them and then trying to determine what they are. Which
Mm-hmm.
so right now we have like rules to manually search for particular like regexes in the subject or in the body. But the
Mm-hmm.
more I think about it, there's this thing, I'm not sure, it's like it's like these new things that are coming out for AIs which essentially make it easier for them to introduce it as a tool chain. It's like MOC or
MCPs,
something like that. MCPs,
MCP.
that's it.
Yeah.
MCP. Yeah, exactly. And so and TJ's Prism project and all that stuff, and I'm like, man, I could probably pipe this subject line and this body, which is just HTML body,
Mm-hmm.
to something like Prism, and it could probably like 99% of the time figure out if there's something there or not, and if
Yeah.
there is, like, then categorize it as well. So that would be really interesting. I'm sure it could extract like a couple pieces of data that would look like they should be. Yeah, man, it's like large language models almost definitely the tool for this job. Because like I
Yeah.
said, right now we're sort of manually doing it, but it's like it's going to be imperfect at best. And so if I
Mhm.
pass it over to an LLM, it still might be imperfect, but like it's going to get a much better set of data to test to see if we
Yeah.
can find a relevant piece inside our database. So
Yeah. I had to do this recently. So we use Google apps for all of our stuff at work. So our like blessed AI is Gemini, which I don't use a lot of AI yet. Call me a late adopter or whatever. But
a Luddite.
I yeah, a Luddite, an AI Luddite. Every time TJ says he's added some new thing to Prism, I'm like, dude, I'm so happy for you. This seems to be going really well. I
Yeah,
have no
right.
idea what you're talking
Right,
about.
yeah. Like, dude, good for you. I am so
Yeah.
stoked for you. I hope this continues to go well.
But yeah, I had to the other day recategorize, and I actually did this for some Laracon's demographic data. I used ChatGPT for that, but the same kind of concept. I said, given I have these 30 different types of what were they? Like loan types. I need to recategorize them into these 5 product types. So I just said to Gemini, here are the 30. I need you to recategorize it
Oh
into
yeah.
these 5. Off it went. And great. Because then I don't need to rely on someone from the product team to do that. I can just say, like, here's what I've come up with based on this AI and based on what I've prompted Gemini to do. Can you just give it a once over? And it, like, everyone says it speeds up, but I think it speeds up that interdepartmental side of things
Yes,
as
for
well,
sure.
where I don't have to say, I need this, can you go and do it? I say, here's what I've done. Can you just check it to make sure that it is correct? And it couldn't do, like, it's like, I don't know what to do with other, or I don't know what to do with this, or these ones belong in different categories depending on whether it's a consumer or a business loan kind of thing. So you can, you know, and again, I'm late to this, so you all know this. You're all yelling at your pod player at the moment that, yeah, this is, table stakes stuff. But I don't think I'm ever going to get it to help me write code. I've watched, like, live streams and people using it and stuff, and just the constant popping up of, like, I want to do this, tab to complete. I can't reconcile with that. I don't want it telling me what to do. But when I'm asking it for stuff like this, I had to do it with demographic data. We did like a attendee survey for Laracon last year to try and categorize into like, because job title was like a free text field. So some people put CTO, some people put chief technology officer, some people put head of engineering,
Yeah.
some people, all of this senior engineer, principal engineer. And I'm like, okay, well, I can't do anything with 30 different job titles. Can we kind of categorize it into, um, you know, uh, executives, management, engineers, and other, and then kind of refine all of that kind of stuff. And that worked really well as well. So I think for that kind of thing, I've got a good use for it. Writing emails, and not, you can tell when an email has been written by AI, but just to get me directionally where I need to go. Like I want to say this, but I don't want to use these words. Like how do
Yeah.
I spin it for the person that I'm talking for? Like, because then I want to address, what are Jake's needs from this? How do I spin this in a way that Jake will understand? Not like I want to do this based on what I want. I
Yeah.
say to
Sure.
GPT, this is my goal, but I'm sending it to this person. Can you? And it directionally tells me what I need to do, and then I know, okay, this is how I'm going to write it. This is how I'm going to phrase it, and then I would put like my tone of voice to it because I think that's still important to do. But understanding how to tackle the other point of view, I think it's very helpful for that.
Yeah,
So
I
yeah.
agree. I've got so one of the guys on my team actually, Chris Law. I talked to you about him before. He's like a serial idea guy. You know what I mean? One of the most recent things he made, which I think is pretty cool, what you're talking about, like I need to understand the perspective of the other party is the idea,
Mhm,
right? Like
mhm.
how do I put my brain into how to put myself into the shoes of that person?
Yeah.
A new thing that he's come up with, which I thought was really clever, is this idea of he has friends and stuff that are lawyers, and if you are going to court, it would be really great to sort of have somebody to bounce your arguments off of. Where are the holes in my arguments? And so he basically has pre-trained a bot to say like, hey, I'm going to present my arguments to you. I want you to act as a defending attorney. You know what I mean? And I want you to try and come back at me. And so you basically pre-argue your trial with this thing, and then you have a much better idea of what objections might be brought up to like your arguments or whatever. I'm like, that's a genius way to use this
Yeah.
tool,
Yeah.
um and so man, every time I talk to somebody, it's like I'm getting more that is using this technology. It's like I'm getting more ideas for two things. Number one, how to use it, and then how not to use it,
Mhm,
because you hear the
mhm.
horror stories too, right? You hear the other side of
Yeah.
it, where it's like I was just talking to a bunch of lawyers at a conference, and they were like, yeah, you definitely do not want to use this to do anything for law, because it will cite case law
Yeah.
that doesn't exist. You know what I
Yeah,
mean?
that's right. The
Like there was this
hallucinations are
case,
the worry.
yeah, right. It'll cite case law that he said there was this. I was talking to this lawyer, and he said there was one that was citing case law from a fiction novel, and as if it was real. And it's like it can't tell the difference. It just read it and was like, oh, this case resulted in this thing, and it's like it doesn't know. So
Yeah.
anyway, just interesting. So yeah,
I
both
thought, what
sides
was
of it.
this thing that I saw last week? It's like slop slop something, where like when you're getting some AIs, some LLMs to write code for you, it will hallucinate npm packages into
Ooh, no way.
existence, right? So it's like, oh, just like npm install this thing. So what the the bad guys have been doing is then creating packages for these commonly hallucinated packages in these scenarios, registering them on
Genius.
packages so that people are then installing these. I think slop squatting was the phrase.
Oh,
Um,
genius. Slop
and
squatting.
and
That's
yeah,
hilarious.
so then this AI slop code that's being written that people are just copy pasting, vibing into their applications or whatever, are then installing these packages, and then the malicious actors are then compromising those applications from the get go because people don't know what they're putting in there. So yeah, it's interesting. It's definitely interesting.
Yeah. Yeah, it is. It's a brave new world out there. Glad to have good players in the space like Mr. TJ who can,
Hmm.
lead us through the minefields. But it seems like for TJ, for sure, like there's so much interest. And I mean, like I think like everybody else, a lot of us at least are at the same point we are, where it's like I'm needing somebody else to kind of do this so that I can figure out what to do next. And so he's had just a lot of opportunities with all the hard work he's put in
Yeah.
over the last like 2.5 years, really, to be able to talk about Prism and, educate people on how exactly they can use not only his tool, but, the larger ecosystem. Like what are the abbreviations and acronyms that we need to know in order
Mhm.
to be able to understand this tool and use it, or use these tools more effectively. So
For
yeah, pretty
sure.
cool stuff.
Because I know he's got like a workshop at PHP
Hmm.
Tech, and he's speaking at PHP Tech.
Yes. Yep.
And he's speaking at Laracon US, isn't he? That
Yes, he
was
is.
that was
Yep. He
yeah,
was
yeah.
just announced.
Yep. So that's really cool that he gets the opportunity to get up on stage and present again. Oh, here we go. Yeah, he'll be taking the Laracon stage to talk about Laravel and AI with the Prism AI SDK. So yeah,
Yeah.
excited
Should
to
be
get over for
bonkers. I'm
that.
super stoked. Yep. Absolutely.
I'll
Yep. Should be a
finally
good one.
understand. I'll have some understanding of what he's been talking about.
Yeah, I was able to go to his one of his talks last year
Hmm.
at PHP Tech. And so I feel like I have a better understanding even just from that 1 hour talk. I walked
Yeah.
away from that with such a better understanding of what exactly I was talking about when I was talking about vector embeddings and tool chains and things
Hmm.
like that. I didn't know what they were before that. And
Yeah.
he took 40 hours of learned knowledge and condensed it down to an hour for me,
Right.
essentially, and taught. And so it was super valuable. So yeah, no, I'm really excited. He always does a great job, and he's had so many speaking opportunities now too. I know the first time he spoke, I believe, was in Chicago at Laracon, and we were there for that. Maybe he had done some little small meetup talks, but he's talked a lot since then.
He
And
wasn't Chicago. I think New York at World Stages, I think was the first time I saw TJ speak at Laracon
oh,
US,
seriously?
which would have been the second Laracon US. Yeah.
Whoa, 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 whoa! No, 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 no! He did not speak at that one. There's no
No,
way.
surely
Was World Stages like
that
the
was the underground one in Hell's Kitchen.
yeah.
Laracon TV.
I
Hang
don't
on.
think
Here we
he
go.
spoke at that one.
Hang on. Look, listen here, you.
I'll be back.
2019. Or was it? No, 2019 was the PlayStation Theater. So it would have been 2017. And he was talking about, no, that one was not him. T.S. Cruddy. Maybe I'm hallucinating it. Slay the Beast. That was Taylor's keynote. Multi-tenancy was not him. Was it the one that I missed in 2018? No, come on.
I don't think. I think it
He's
was Chicago,
definitely.
dude.
You
I
reckon?
don't think I've seen.
Oh,
I don't think so.
yeah. I'm really annoyed by this now.
All right, let's see here.
Matt, Ryan, Colin. Oh, TJ. Yeah, APIs with Laravel. Chicago,
Chicago.
2018. All right. Well, see, I missed it. I was not there. I had a baby. Well, I didn't have a baby.
Yes.
Rhiannon
Well,
had a baby.
sort of. You sort of
I
had
was
a baby.
caring for the baby. And
There you
my
go.
baby, by the way, my nearly 7-year-old lost his first
Wow.
tooth yesterday.
Yes, good man.
He'd gone to bed and he came out about an hour later and he's like, I'm too scared to sleep. I'm worried I'm going to swallow my tooth. I'm like, what are you talking about? His tooth was wobbly. So this is his first wobbly tooth. And he came out and we had a look, and his adult teeth had actually grown in. We hadn't noticed this until he had the wobbly tooth. His adult teeth had grown in, two of them behind his baby teeth.
Ooh, boy. Yeah.
Which apparently is a very common thing,
Mhm.
especially
Yeah.
on the bottom teeth. So they call it shark teeth. So he had 2 rows of teeth there, but we're at the zoo with the kids yesterday and he like ate a gummy or something and he's like, my tooth came out. So he was very excited about that. He got his first tooth fairy visit overnight. He was running around with his money in his hand all morning after getting that out. So
That is
yeah,
funny. Yeah.
the baby that's now 6, almost 7. So
That's crazy. We've had a good number of teeth nowadays, and so I feel bad that my youngest always gets gypped because our first one we were very diligent. You know what I mean? About like, of course, he missed his, he lost his first tooth,
Mhm.
all that, and then now our youngest has losing teeth, and it's like, oh yeah, that's right, you put that under your pillow last week. I forgot.
Hmm.
Yep, tooth fairy's on vacation or whatever, you know.
Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
yeah, we got to go around to
We
that, but that's super fun. I remember when I was a kid, my grandma always used to give me like a 50-cent piece under my pillow. That was pretty special.
we
It was like a big coin,
we
make you feel rich, even if it's worth 50 cents.
That's right. That's right. We got a little thing that he hangs on the door handle, so we don't have to. So the tooth fairy doesn't have to sneak in there and
Oh,
get under
nice.
his
Good
pillow.
idea.
Yeah,
Smart. Oh, how smart are you
yeah,
guys? That's way easier.
yeah. Yep. He was very,
Genius.
very excited by that. Very excited indeed.
I love it. Love it. Well, hey dude, I haven't heard about any of the things that you're necessarily working on. You want to chat about that this time, or you want to save it for later?
Nothing super exciting for me. Like I'm just building a couple of basic ammo. We've got a short week, so for Easter we have Good Friday, Easter Monday are public holidays here. So we just came off a 4-day weekend, and then it's Anzac Day this Friday. So we've got like a 3-day week. So I'm just throwing together an endpoint so that Salesforce can provision partner users inside of our platform. So introducing some new stuff there. Nothing terribly exciting going on with me at the moment. Like Laracon's certainly ramping up. We've got speaker submissions coming in at the moment. We're doing like a compressed window for speaker submissions this year because I feel like, we had it open for probably 3 months last year and it just felt like too long. Like people don't really submit. So I'm just trying to keep the marketing going. I'll be a bit quiet this week because, as I said, we've got that compressed 3-day week this week. But I'll kick off next week a bit more just to be like, let's get some submissions in. I've selected 4 speakers already, just from to get that
Nice.
first 4 up. So when tickets go on sale, we will just be like, here is the first 4 speakers. Early bird will be on the go, and we'll go from there. We're just finalizing the branding because the compressed weeks threw everything out for our branding agency as well because they had other stuff they've been working on to try and get that done. So hopefully I'll see some designs soonish. And yeah,
I'm stoked to see them.
Looking forward.
They always do such a great job. Are you guys using the same
They do
agency as last year?
Yeah. They do a really, really good job putting everything
What's the
together.
name
And
of
they
the company again?
they're called Nucleus.
Yeah.
So yeah, but they just do such a great job, not only on like, the design of the website, but figuring out how everything fits together. Because they're a branding agency, it's not just like here's a logo, here's a website, here's a thing. They actually figure out how everything flows from from the logo basically to the brand mark to the word mark to what's it going to look like on banners, on t-shirts, on all of this different stuff, to the point where when they're coming up with the color palette, they're like, what how is this going to translate to Michael's hair color for the conference? So they're thinking
That's
about
hilarious.
all of this stuff. So I'm very much looking forward to seeing what they've got for us this year, because I actually had an idea in mind for the direction that I wanted to head in this year, and so they've got a couple of concepts for me to review that they keep teasing me that they've got 3, and each of their people over there have a favorite, so I'll have to be a tiebreaker for one of them. So but they're also their creative director is also very good at getting me to pick the one that they want to work on most, whilst making me think that it was my idea in the first place. So
that's what the best designers always do.
I know this, and I still fall for it every time. So, but they haven't. I don't think they've got it wrong yet. So,
yeah, that's exactly right. They'll be like, okay, here's option 1, and it's like a little bit underwhelming, and you're like, okay. And like, here's option 2, and it's like, it's the best one. And then here's option 3, and it's like a way out there concept, just like crazy. And you're like, okay, well, I really like option 2. They're like, great, that's the one that we like too.
Yeah. Except last year they really pushed, because we almost didn't go with Bruce. Who wants a surfing elephant? And we almost went for this like very tame, very like it could be any conference design. And the more I thought about it, I was like, no, we need to have something that stands out a little bit. And the idea behind using not the elephant specifically, not Bruce specifically, but the idea behind having Bruce was to have something that we could put a different costume on and reuse year to year. So we're not coming up with a completely different brand each and every year. It's a lot of work to do that every single year. But to say, okay, well, this year Bruce is going to wear board shorts and have a surfboard, and then next year he's going to be, I don't know, what, whatever the next year is, he's like,
Rock
what is it,
climbing.
vaporwave or rock climbing or whatever,
Vaping.
all of these
He's
different
vaping.
things.
Oh, vaporwave. Sorry.
Vaporwave, all, just like
Right.
trying to think of what it was called that Laracon did in New York. So yeah, it's I think it eases things, but it's still like a very complicated process. But I gave them like two directions, two things that I wanted to focus on this year. So I'm looking forward to see how that comes to life, because I've beyond, like, the fact that I even came up with an idea for it was baffling to me, because I'm not even very good at that. So
I love it, dude. I was a big fan of last year's. I'm excited to see what they come up with this year too.
Yeah, it's going to be good. It's going to be good.
Should be a fun one. All right, my friend. Well, let's wrap this one up. This is episode 173. Is that right? 174. So close. Episode 174 of the North Meets South Web podcast. Thanks for tuning in with us. Find show notes at northmeetsouth.audio/174. Hit us up on X or on Blue Sky at Michael Dorinda, at Jacob Bennett, or at North South Audio. And of course, as always, if you like the podcast, feel free to rate it up in your podcatcher of choice. 5 stars would be incredible. I will keep you updated on the Q journey on this side, as well as a book I'm reading just now called Digital Minimalism. It's really good. It's been really, really good. I might disappear off social media for a long time. It's been a good read. I'll let you know how it goes.
Fair enough. Excellent.
Until next time, folks, we'll see you later.
Bye.